Welcome to The Inside. This is a special edition of the InSum Insider coming to you on a Friday. This is your source for Oracle Apex tips, techniques, methodology, and really wherever that discussion takes us. I'm your host, Monty Latchley, coming to you from the energy capital of the world, Houston, Texas. And with me today is my
Monty.
good friend. What?
Monty, oh, we've been so worried about you. You've been out of commission. Sorry about that.
Yeah,
Missing in action. We've been worried. Tell us a little bit about what you've been going through the last couple of days.
Yeah, I can say we're not quite the energy capital of the world this week. We're still under a boil order, which means as of the last 36 hours, we've had some services come online. We have power, we have heat now, we have electricity, we have internet, and the only thing we're missing is water, but something you kind of got to have. I'm not the first guy to get in line with all the climate stuff. There's people that have more passion around that than I did. But when you're without services, essential services like this for the last week, it's an attention getter, to say the least, Michelle.
I bet it's terrifying. We're so glad you're okay. I was going to say, I think we can all agree that sadly these sorts of climate events are no longer the exception that we'd like to believe they are. Climate change is definitely the biggest threat facing us all. And that's definitely why we at InSum have been, we take it very seriously, and we've proudly been committed and contributing development resources to this project led by Vincent and our very own Stephen Feuerstein, a project called Evry. I myself joined Stephen and Vincent a couple of years ago as a member of the board. But really, they're the ones, along with a whole host of dedicated volunteers, are the ones that have been doing all of the work. We wanted to share Evry with you today. What do you say, Monty, if we bring a lot of the team on and share Evry with you today?
Let's do it. As long as they bring the passion with them, let's do it. Let's bring them on.
I have no doubt. Everybody, please welcome Stephen, Vincent. We have Roger, Stephen, Hayden, Fekrat, Helen, Tobias. Look at all these happy faces.
Nice. Glad that you are doing okay, Monty.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Stephen. I'm definitely, this is definitely something that I personally have to kind of take more notice of. There's so much that I've taken for granted up to this point that when you're asked to do without, or when things are removed, like I said, it's an attention getter.
And I hate to say it, but more and more of us are going to be hitting those points of harsh realizations about how our world has changed. So hopefully what we've done and how we've leveraged Apex can make a difference there.
Well, we look forward to seeing the app, Michelle. I'll step aside and we can see see the fruits of their efforts here.
Absolutely. Stephen and Vincent, I know you prepared something for us. If you wanted to jump right in.
Sure. And obviously we have other members of the team here, not many more who have helped. These folks have definitely been very involved. Why don't we just take a minute, if any of you want to say something, and nobody has to say something about the project and why you've worked on it. Is that okay, Michelle? Should we do that now, or maybe wait till later?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
You can't stay on. You don't have to go on at length. Don't go on at length. Jump in, go. Helen wants to talk. Okay. Go, Helen.
Is it? She commute.
Here we go. Hi, everyone. So I originally joined the project because of my actually professional relationship with Stephen. I knew Stephen. I didn't know Vincent yet. Didn't know Michelle yet. But and of course, my concern about climate change and the things we do that are hurting the planet. So when I read about what the project was about and creating an app to help people track their own personal progress on little actions they can do that help, heal the planet along the way, I couldn't resist joining. So thanks.
And Helen's been very active on the marketing, promotion, conceptual, and content side, which has been fantastic. In fact, Helen's a technologist like me, and we share something really interesting about this project. We have done none of the technical work on it. I made a decision that I'm going to take a break from the technical side. I've written no PL SQL code for this project. Stephen, did you want to go next? I think I saw your mouth start to move a little bit.
Sure, no problem. So yeah, I joined the team about 2 years ago now. I think it's already been, or just over. It's been great so far. The reason I joined was I've got a passion for the outdoors, and I thoroughly enjoy being in the outdoors, and I want to keep it that way. So within South Africa, we have Scouts, Scouts South Africa, and we have a lot of things in terms of trying to recycle renewable energy and all that, and part of that is our duty to the environment. And within Scouts, I try to follow that tradition. I'm no longer actively participating, but passively I am still part of them, and that's the reason I'm part of this team, just to keep on that tradition.
Thank you so much. Fakrat, do you want to say a word?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me? Is that...
In our
Yeah, that's good.
It's been
That's
amazing.
good. Yeah, so I've been, I think, around 3 years, almost 3 years, like Stephen. I've joined in 3 years. I've been working with this fantastic team. It's been a journey, and can't be any more happier than today of us releasing this application. I've been an advocate of climate change and a lot of, even though not significant, but small actions, and couldn't resist the opportunity to be part of this fantastic team and being able to give back to the community and give us an application that hopefully everyone will like and be able to use on their day-to-day basis.
Thanks, Fakrat. Anybody else, or shall we dive in?
I think we should dive in, but I just want to say something quick. I'm excited for today for 2 reasons. First of all, we are releasing our app, which we've been working on for over 2 years now. But second is, this is my first webinar as a non-INSOM employee. I missed you guys so much that I had to come back in just over a couple of days. And hopefully we do this quite often now.
We will have you back whenever you want to come back, Vincent. We miss you already.
Nice.
All right, so we'll go on, but Tobias has been very active on the back end. Inside Apex and working on actually a really cool side project called Cafe, which is climate actions for everyone. We're working with other similar apps and efforts. And Hayden has been really involved on the testing side, and Roger also in the content and development. Thank you, team. All right, away we go. Vincent, do a share for us, please. So I'm going to do a little bit of talking up front, then we're going to dive into the app and take a look around and really get a sense of what we've been able to do with this technology stack. So basically the whole point behind Evry, and originally this was called Fabi for All the Beautiful Earth, and it pivoted to Evry, and I'll come back to that in a second as to why we made that pivot. But the basic idea was we have all these technical skills and a big community of people who want to help. Let's see if we can leverage that Oracle stack in our experience in a way that will help the planet, help heal the planet. Next slide, please, Vincent. So the bottom line is, I don't think we have to convince a whole lot of people that climate change is happening and is a real threat. Now, obviously, there are lots of people who are not at that point yet. Monty seems to be giving serious consideration to it. Excellent. And unfortunately, there'll be more and more of that as more and more crises envelop more and more of our people, of humans around the world. But the bottom line is that literally, certainly hundreds of millions of people know that we're facing an enormous existential crisis on multiple levels. And many, many of us are desperate to help. We want to find a way to make a difference, have an impact. On the other, and at the same time, wow, we're all still really busy with our lives and our jobs and our responsibilities. How do we make that all work together? Could there be an app that would do that? Next slide. So you can really think of, and this framing is actually from Helen Sanders, you can really think of Evry as kind of a Fitbit for our planet. Now, Sorry. Let me talk about Evry for a second, why it's called that, and then I'll come back to the Fitbit aspect. So the bottom line to us is that when you're facing an urgent emergency, you don't have a fight about which should be more important. Should we get the water on or should we get the power on? We go full blast in every possible way to make a difference. So the point behind our naming of Evry is that everyone, every day should take every action we possibly can to have an impact. Some days we'll do less, some days we'll do more. Each of us will have our own different patterns of actions we can take, but we have to find a way to maximize our engagement, maximize our impact. Now, when you look at our smartphones, which are largely accelerants of climate change, right? It makes it easier for us to buy stuff and consume stuff, which we at the Evry team believe is one of the fundamental drivers of climate change and habitat destruction and human-caused extinctions. Phones are accelerants. So we ask ourselves, can we use a smartphone to be a brake to slow down the planet harming and planet heating? People use apps to lose weight. They use apps to stay fit. We use apps to distract us from just about everything. But the bottom line is that we've learned from a psychological standpoint, you need tools to help you, to nudge you, to encourage you, to remind you, to move you along a path to achieve your goals. So we thought, well, that's the kind of thing we should build with Evry. So we've actually set a very high bar for ourselves. We've created a tool that we think is something you can use every single day to, over time, change the way you live in the world, change the way you consume in the world, and turn your intentions and your desires into new habits. And once they become habits, then you really see the traction around lowering consumption, lowering pollution, and also taking action for systemic change. So those are the kind of themes that we built into Evry. I could talk a lot more about, even more of it, but what I think we should do is move on to the next slide and start taking a look at our app. So the tagline of Evry is very simple: make a habit of healing the planet. Don't just take action sporadically, build it integrate it into your lives. How can we help you do that? Let's go exploring. So first of all, we first released Fabi about a year ago, and we thought it was a really good app, but it needed a lot of extra work. So we went back to the drawing board and spent a year coming up with a new framing, a new implementation and all. And at this point, for example, we launched on Wednesday, though it had been in use for a little bit before that. We've already had almost 19,000 actions logged as taken through the app, which is really cool. And the whole idea here is that there are many, many different actions you can take. We have almost 500 climate actions in our library. Some of them won't apply to you, many of them will. And you can pick from those actions and put together a plan that works just for you, that is focused on you. And we think that kind of flexibility is necessary because everybody's different. Everybody's lives and challenges are different. Now, as to vision, let's talk about some bigger numbers. We hope, we plan that this app, and actually there are others like it, so not just our app, but even other similar apps, will start to have millions and millions of users, people dedicated to making change in their lives and using these kinds of tools to make it real and make it stick and inspire others. So when you look around at the different apps that you use and ask yourselves, well, what keeps me going? What keeps me engaged? We did the same thing. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. And we tried to draw from those lessons learned to put them into our app to give it the same kind of stickiness. So we have very big ideas, very big goals, and we hope that you will join us. So just by the way, we'll come back to this later, but we hope you love the tech. We hope you learn new stuff about Apex. Most importantly, we hope you try Evry and try it for a week and share it with your friends and help us build these numbers. All right, so let's look at some features.
Stephen, before we look at some features, I just want to explain the format of our webinar today in this presentation. So the way we're structuring it is we're going to present the main features of Evry. And also, I want to be able to demo it to you in real time. So what I did is on the left is our talking points, so you can follow us by reading the slides. But also, I'm having an Android screen next to it, and then an iPhone screen. And I want to be able to show you the distinction on how to use Evry in all of your devices. So as we go along, I will also demo it to you in real time.
Very impressive, I must say.
And what I did not do prior to this presentation is install the app. So I'm going to do that right now by going to evry.app. And on the home screen, what you see, this is not a typical native application, but I'm going to explain it a little bit later.
Okay.
So with this web application, what you can do is install it directly from our website. So you go here and you tap install evry, and then you get a nice little view of all the features, but you can simply go and tap install evry again, confirm. And now the application is being installed directly on my home screen. This is Android. The installation method is just a little bit different for iPhone. I can demo that to you also later. So now on my phone, let me find evry. There it is. I have evry installed natively on my phone with an icon that I can reach easily through my home screen. And from here, I will open the app.
Wait, Vincent, we just had a question. I guess evry was done with Apex, right? So let's be really clear. This is a 100% Oracle Cloud, Oracle technology stack. We're running on Oracle Cloud, database cloud service, using Oracle Application Express. Go ahead.
That's right. So what I'm doing now is I'm actually using evry on my phone, and this is just a mirror that you're seeing on the screen.
Nice.
So I'm going to sign in and use a social platform to speed up my entrance into the application. And here's the first feature, which is the social aspect. Stephen, do you want to go ahead?
Sure. So in our first iteration, Fabi, you could look through our action library. You could tap the action is done, and you'll see all of that soon. But what we were missing was the sense of doing it together as a group. So one of our big additions in evry, including a social feed similar to what you'd see on Twitter or Facebook, but with its own special characteristics appropriate to evry. And the idea is that you can just post to the feed, but also as you complete an action, you can add a picture, add some text about what was involved in that experience. And then even better, at the end of each day, we'll come back and look at this in more detail. You finalize your day's activities and post to the feed that as well. So what we want to do is create a place where you not only can register the fact that you made an impact, but you can inspire others and you can basically join a community of others around the world doing similar work.
So I want to be clear about this. This is not just a typical feed like you see on Twitter or Instagram. This is specifically tailored for taking climate actions. So people that post to the feed do that in retrospect to having taken action in their own life. And of course, they use the feed to inspire others and spark a discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Should I move on?
Sure, let's go on. We'll certainly get questions when we drill back in.
And of course, before we move on, you have all the nice bits and pieces of a regular social feed, like you would like posts, comments on them. So we really want to encourage discussion here. The second big feature of evry is the ability to explore climate actions. So this is the second tab on the bottom right, if you are following my screen here.
Right. So one of the things we're most proud of in the evry project is that we now have, I think, 468 climate actions. And what's really great about that is that everybody's lives are different. There are so many different ways to participate that we wanted to capture all of that so that anybody coming to evry could find something that fits their lives and they can act on. So we have a whole content team just working on building out these actions, finding links, et cetera, teaming up with other organizations to incorporate actions that they've thought of. And that gives us, I think, a real enormous foundation on which people can take action.
So in here, you're going to find all sorts of recommended actions that could or could not fit your life. You have the ability to add those actions to your goals or eventually to your habits. You can also have a look and browse through the trending actions, which are the most executed actions throughout our community. You can also have a look at all the new actions that we've added, because we constantly have new actions being added by our content team. Or if you want to simply browse and look at all the different categories and see what you could be doing from within your home, or in favor of animal welfare, or all sorts of categories, you can simply go to all right up top here and find the category that is interesting to you.
So 2 things on that. One, Vincent, your mic is going scratchy off and on. I'm not sure there's much you can do about it, but it is. The second is that for those of us who work with database, you can probably get a sense, even looking at these few screens, some of the elements of the data model we built that allow us to do these kinds of connections between actions and categorizations of them. All right, so actions. Well, that sounds pretty overwhelming. 500 actions, scrolling through them. How do I figure out what makes sense for me? So the way it will work when you start using Evry is that you go through an onboarding process. You answer 12 questions that give us a sense about how you're living in the world, who's with you doing that. And we will pull out of that collection of actions a proposed plan. And plans are broken up into 2 pieces, goals and habits. Goals are things that you want to do. Goals are things that you want to do often and regularly enough to turn them into habits. Habits are those actions you already take as a routine part of your life. And the reason we broke them up is that we want to emphasize moving at goals to habits. And also the activity in the app is different because once you build your plan, you execute against your plan, and you mark off your goals as you complete them or at the end of the day when you complete them. Habits is the reverse. You basically mark it not done if you don't do it, but if it's a habit, we assume you're doing it and you carry it along. So let's take a look at that action page, the plan page.
Yes, I've got it open in both Android and iPhone.
And this is probably where
For
we
me-
spent. Yeah, you can dive in and show off some of what's going on there.
So the way we structure this is that we want to allow you to organize your week and your days, and allow you to take action in an organized way. So, for instance, this is today, Friday the 19th, and I have currently 23 actions to do. We call them goals. These are my 23 goals for today. I have a total different section called habits. We're going to come back to that later. And today I have currently done 1 out of those 23 actions. The idea is, of course, to complete them all. And the way you would do this is by simply tapping in on one of those did it button, such as buy organic food. So I go and tap did it, and then I gain points. And I also have the ability to post to the feed and inspire others. You know, I can post a picture, I can write text, but right now I'm not going to do that. And I can go on and on and on and tap actions for everything I've done today. Stephen, you want to talk about habits or finalize?
I did a little bit. I already talked about habits and goals. So you can see the button called finalize. Why don't you change the time on the button so it lights up and you can see it better? So basically the idea is that you go through your day, and during the day you might use the app and register that certain things have been completed. But by and large, the pattern we're seeing from us using it is that I go through my day and I keep these things in mind. And then at the end of the day, I look back on my day, I reflect on my day and ask, how did I do? How was my journey towards, healing the planet go? And so I'll go to my plan page. I'll go through my goals and mark everything completed that I've got completed. I can even mark them as not done and get them out of the way. And then I go through my habits and ask myself, did I continue all of my habits? Or are there some things that I skipped? That's pretty routine for me. I've got a lot of things that are habitual on a daily basis, but sometimes I don't go driving. So there are habitual things that don't apply. And then when I'm all done reviewing things, I click on the finalize button, that green button in the middle there at the top. And that basically says, hey, I want to report to the world how I did. And so I get my summary of what I accomplished. I can write a message. Usually I'll pick a picture of my dogs for a walk in the woods or some work I did rescuing trees, fighting invasives. type a little message, and then share that out to the feed. And this, to me, psychologically, this is about the most important part of Fabi, the original app, and we moved it in here, which is I literally use Evry to look back at how I did, reflect on my day, and look ahead to the next day and ask, what am I going to be doing tomorrow? Am I going to be doing anything different? Is there something I should add to my plan for tomorrow? Something I can move off to a future date? So I find myself being more intentional and reflective about my life as a whole, but certainly about how I'm living in it and how I'm healing the planet.
I really like that framing, Stephen, of using it as a way to reflect and almost like a personal journal in a way, if you wanted to.
Now,
have your climate action.
Yeah, speaking of personal journey, do we have a slide on the journey page, on the profile page?
Yes, next to Healer Board.
Okay, so the Healer Board, of course, every app has a leaderboard, and we got a question first. Why don't I take it? Why the name change? I remember Fabi. So Fabi was our original name. It's still the name of our organization, and it stands for all a beautiful Earth. That we're not just here to help the humans. We're here to help all species make the most we can of this lovely planet. We changed it because it didn't really connect up with people. Number one, they didn't even know how to pronounce it. I think when you've got a name that people don't know how to pronounce, it's a bad sign. But also, we feel like in this moment, and it's changed a lot since 2 years ago, the message of Evry, that everybody needs to take action, that no matter what kind of action you take, it's good, was most important. So it was really us looking at how the world has been changing, how people's attitudes around climate change have been changing. And we adopted a new theme and a new focus from there. So apps these days, everybody's got a leaderboard. We decided to call it a healer board because we're not so much concerned about competing. Who's the best at healing the planet? We all just want to do better each day. And we always talk about planet healing and life points. So our healer board shows how people are doing across our user base. Vincent.
I don't know. I think Roger looks pretty competitive, if you ask me. He's in first place there.
Yes, he is.
Really hard to beat Roger, I got to tell you.
I don't think there's much more to add to the healer board, but I just think it's a really nice way to put yourself in the community and try to push yourself harder. So I like it.
And stay there for just a second. Just a tip for all of you. I hope every one of you is going to leave this event and start using Evry. And if you start to wonder to yourself, oh, like scrolling through all those actions, how do I find out stuff that's interesting? Go to the healer board. Click on the name of somebody you're interested in. You might want to be like them when you grow up. And you can look at their plan. So click on my name, or anybody's name, doesn't matter. And what you'll then see is my journey page. So this is my profile page, my public profile. So I've got a little message about how I see the world and why I care about Evry and the planet. And you can look at my posts and my actions and my goals and my habits. So what I will do is like Roger, like, wow, you're racking up a lot of points. What are you doing? So I would go visit Roger's page, scroll down through his goals and habits. If you click on one of those tabs, you'll see the actual actions that I'm doing. And then now you see where it says add goal. So you can just say, oh, that's a good one. I hadn't thought of that. Tap on it, goes into your plan.
Mm-hmm.
So that's.
I do want to say to this point, Stephen, though, for anybody concerned about privacy issues, or you might not want to be sharing all of this stuff, we do have all sorts of privacy toggles, right? Settings on the profile. If you we hope you want to share your goals with everybody, but if you don't want to, you can certainly make your profile private.
So one other thing I wanted to say about the journey page. So I have two granddaughters, one who's 9 and one who's 5. And I'm hoping that in 10 or 20 years, this world is going to be way better than it is. I'm not terribly optimistic, but we're going to do the best we can. But in any case, I want to be able to say to my granddaughters in 10 or 20 years, when they say, Grandpa, what did you do to save the planet from going to hell? I'd say, go to the Evry app, click on my name, and check out my journey. In other words, this page is going to show what I've been doing for the last number of years around the climate, around healing our planet. And I'm invested in representing myself here for my granddaughters in the future, just as another perspective.
We do have a question here from Stefan about whether or not the app is available on Google Play. Vincent, I don't know if that's something you want to discuss now or at some later point. Just want to mention that the question has come up.
Right, and that's a really good question. I'll talk a bit more about how we're managing platform deployments later, but Android App Store is actually in the works as we speak. So we're waiting on Google to approve our app in the store, thanks to the work of Stephen Cloet, who's here with us now. So we should be expecting to have Evry in the Play Store very soon.
Next.
Okay, so I want to take a step back from the features, and we're going to come back to Evry by the end of this presentation. But I know in our audience we have a lot of developers and Apex people, so I want to talk a little bit about our approach to design and how is it possible that we are having an application that doesn't look like Apex. And also I want to touch on to a few different topics of things that we went out of the box to create this really nice UX and experience. So first of all, the thing that really strikes you the most when you're coming from an Apex background is the look and feel of Evry. So this is not a typical Apex application because it simply does not use universal theme. And more with my experience of working with Apex in the past few years, I really realized that I don't like and I'm not really good at it, at creating designs. You know, coming up with ideas of putting something here and there and placing the buttons and choosing the colors. I'm pretty decent at developing those pages and those applications, but I much prefer work with designers now, people that will simply provide mock-ups to me. So then I don't have to go back and forth and create the designs, and you just replicate what you have on mock-ups. And this is the approach we took with Evry. We worked with a designer to create this branding, those visuals, and we ported it into an Apex theme that is extendable and reusable. So eventually this could become something that anyone can use, given the energy to open source. Not a promise. And that designer is a good friend of mine, Cédrina Laberge, who is the lead designer on Evry. She's worked on the branding, she's created the logos, she's created the UX and the UI. So everything you see from the color palette to how the buttons look and the pages are structured is the work of Cédrina. So I want to thank her a lot because we really couldn't do it without her.
Yeah, the app looks amazing. Thank you, Cédrina, if you're watching.
Yes, if you're watching, Cédrina, you would not believe how many wows we've received from the community. Okay, now moving on to a little bit of rapid bullet points of out-of-the-box features that we've implemented in Evry for all of you Apex developers. So first of all, Evry is a PWA. I've talked about this in the past. PWAs are progressive web apps. They're basically a set of features that allows you to bridge the gap between web apps and native apps. So it's a web app that basically mimics native apps functionalities. Out of those features, you are able to basically install your web app directly on your phone. You are able to send push notifications, which is really useful in the context of a social media platform. You want to receive push notifications for your comments and be able to reply directly from there. So we've used all those PWA features in Evry to supercharge the web experience. Another topic I want to touch on, and Stephen, you can also talk about this, is we've built a lot of intelligence around the content that we push to you. Now, of course, we have a library of almost 500 actions, but not all of them apply to you. You may live in an area of the world where driving a car is not really a thing. So why have all those actions? So we've really tailored the content to apply to location and also through the experience of a user. And we've done this by asking a bunch of questions when you sign up. So you answer a bunch of questions such as, maybe I can just demo this.
And I'll confess, we're not using artificial intelligence, but we are using a lot of thought processes, how to frame questions, and then how to associate answers to your questions with different actions and giving weightings and so on and so forth, so that we could get you started off with a reasonable experience with very little work on your part. And I think this is actually one of the biggest, besides everything else we've talked about, this is one of the biggest changes from FAME to Evry, and I think part of what will make it really successful is that we can give you an incredibly tuned running start on building your action plan.
And I'd say for the content team, wouldn't you agree that's been one of our biggest challenges is getting that to work well and tuning the algorithm and making those associations, running through onboarding again, checking that it makes sense. So certainly I would say that would be one thing I'd hope we'd get as feedback from users. We did our best. If you see anything that you think doesn't make sense based on your onboarding answers and you're getting, we're definitely open to feedback around the actions that are being recommended to you.
Of course. So the way it works is you answer a bunch of questions such as what type of area do you live in? So I live in the city. I'm urban. I go next. Tell us about your home. I live in an apartment. I go next. And by the end of those questions, if I skip to the very end, I'm going to get a nice list of recommended actions that fit my life. So it's not any action. If I don't have a car, I don't want to see car actions.
And again, just to reiterate what Michelle said, it's not perfect. If you see any opportunities for tuning it up, we're going to be constantly tuning this, constantly adding parts to it. So it'll just get better and better. And eventually we'll replace all of us with a robot that will do it automatically. And we can just sit in our
I like
room.
the dancing peas, Vincent. Are you going to talk about dancing peas?
I will talk about animations.
All right.
And by the end of the questions, you are left with a set of actions divided in goals or habits, depending on what you've answered. And we offer you the opportunity to just start with this set of action or customize it. So that's a really quick way to get started and have a personalized experience. Okay.
Images and Oracle database. Let's talk about that.
So Evry is unusual in the sense that we don't often see as many images working off of an Apex application. This is a very image-heavy app. So we had to pay special attention to the performance and how we're handling images from a loading perspective, also from a usability perspective, and a lot of back-end stuff such as the compression that allows us to move fast and serve a lot of different images, sizes to all the users that are using the app at the same time. One of the things we are doing is we heavily rely on the concept of lazy loading. So there are plenty of images right now below this cookie image, but we're not loading it until the user actually has it in the canvas. So that allows us to only load what we need. Very important for page load. Also, we have, am I going to be able to show this? Wait a second. So we have integrated a lot of features inspired by other social media such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we think from a small screen perspective, it's really interesting to be able to zoom, so you can use your fingers and then zoom. And it's actually quite easy. I've documented the process on a blog of mine that will be shown in the next slide. Okay, so as you know, Evry was built by a fairly small team and also limited time. It's not our full-time job to build this. So one of the reason why we decided to go with the technology of PWA instead of going full native and have an Android-specific app, an iOS-specific app, and then a desktop too, is that we had limited time. So this technology allows us to build a single code base and push it to all platforms. Of course, it's not perfect on all platforms, but I think it gives a really good experience on most of them. And it was absolutely essential for the size of our team and the time we had. So that allows us to have Evry working on the desktop, iOS, Android, what have you.
And you've become a real fan of iOS. Would you not agree, Vincent, over the last few months?
It's a very tricky platform to master. Let's just put it that way.
So poor Vincent has an Android device, and most of his team, most of us have iPhones. So the testing process has been fun, I would say.
We have also been able to leverage some of the latest browser APIs. I'm just going to show one right now, which is the Share API. It's the ability to just tap on a piece of content from an app, such as this nice cookie image. And if you tap Share, then you open up a native Share tray from your phone that allows you to push it to Facebook or Instagram or other platforms. So it makes it really easy to share.
Vincent, do you mind if I just step back? There's a question that came in through the chat about which is the pinch and zoom. Was a certain JavaScript library required for that to make that work? And if so, which one? If it's an easy enough answer.
Yes, it is. The pinch and zoom is actually documented in one of my blogs. I thought I had put the link in here. Seems I have not. So
okay, I'll look for it.
I will paste the link. It's not a library. It's fully manual coded, and it's a very small snippet of code. Quite easy to implement. One essential feature that we had to build for such an application is the ability to stay logged in. So in a lot of web apps, and specifically Apex apps, when you want to start a new session, which is the concept of going to your app once again the following day or the following week, you have to re-log in. So for us, that didn't really make sense. We want to have people stay focused on their e-ling, and so for this we have built an automatic login system, actually developed by Tobias, which is here, and it works like most of the mobile apps that we're used to. Very invisible to the user, but pretty cool and also secure. Oh, there it is, Michelle.
Dancing peas, although this guy's pretty cute too.
Yes, there's 1,000 animations to choose from a very nice library that I found called Loti Files. They're basically plug-and-play animations ready for your app. You can tweak the colors, and it's only a one-liner that you have to put in to include nice animations in your apps. I think it elevates your user experience to a whole new level. Don't abuse it, but it's been quite fun to see.
Well, I can tell you,
Vincent, how do you spell Loti? I'll put it in the comments.
Lottie, just like
okay.
this.
Lottie, okay.
Lottie Files.
When you're
Oh,
sharing,
you've got it there. Okay.
it's rather hard to read any of the text. When I remember when Vincent first put the animations into the app, we were all like, wow. We just automatically felt brighter, more cheerful, more engaging. It was really something. And at first we thought he'd done all of them himself.
I did not do any of them. And Cedrina, our designer, was kind enough to modify the colors and make it fit with our general look and feel. So it's looking really good. Such as this one. This one is very geeky, but I wanted to mention it because we've taken an approach that is quite distinct in the context of Apex applications. We've gone to serve most content, if not all content, in an async method. So the async method allows us to basically pull the content without having to submit the page. It gives a very fast experience, kind of feels like a one-page application. So for Apex developers, this is really useful for accelerating the experience, and sometimes while you're debugging performance issues, being able to serve async content really helps with the performance. Okay, so I want to circle back to you, Stephen.
Yeah, and actually, in terms of performance, hopefully you'll use the app and you'll get a sense of it. But it is incredibly snappy, and I saw a number of comments come up about how great it is to have a PWA and runs faster than native. Well, I got to tell you that I think Theckride and Vincent and others have worked really, really hard on the performance side, and I think you also did a lot of tweaking of words, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Because we're moving between pages in the app, and so it is doing page refreshes in a native app. I'm a little bit ignorant about this, but hopefully I'm getting it mostly right. In a native app, you're not going to see that kind of refreshing. So we definitely face some challenges around adapting the Apex architecture to really give you a seamless mobile experience, and you can do it. Not only that, you can do it with a bunch of volunteers. When you're like paid full time to work on this stuff. Oh my God. All right. So we ask you. So go back to the previous one. Yeah. Oh, it is nicer full screen. So we hope you'll give it a try. Certainly, I think we find people installing it and they'll do an action or two, and that's cool. And if that's all you do, that's all right. But commit to it for a week. Try it for a week and go through the day process, go through the finalization process for two reasons. One is we'd really love to get that kind of in-depth feedback that you only get when you've worked with it for a little while, and we really do want to hear what you think as technologists, talking to other geeks, and of course from the standpoint of will we be successful with our objectives. And I think that'll give you the best way of really understanding the power of the app and identify weaknesses. And certainly we want to hear any feedback from you and just share your experiences with others. So did I just talk through the next 3 slides or something?
Not really.
Okay. Oh, no, so help us build. Yes, right. So you go ahead and address that.
So building evry in the context of volunteers helping out was quite challenging. It also took us 2 years to get here. So we hope to be able to accelerate our pace of development in the future. And for this, we need help. So if you have the skills, development or content creation, we have a lot of actions to improve and put more content in there. Or if you have any skills to help accelerate the adoption, so the promotion of evry, please contact us. We will be looking for growing the team in the near future. So please.
Yeah, and so and to follow up a little bit of what Vincent said, there's technology work, and definitely we'll be interested in using some help on that. We came out with a really great release, but of course, the more people use it, the more demand we have for great new features and fixing bugs and so on. The other side is the content. So one of the nice things about evry is that it's a data-driven app. like most apps, but heavily data-driven. Our content library, our action library really drives the entire app. And there's a lot of work to do there. So if you have some background in environmental sciences, which one of our team members does, even though he works for Oracle and is a technologist, or you might have a friend or spouse who's really deeply into the green movement and green knowledge, we'd love to have you help us just literally on the content side, not even coding. So if you want to take a break from the technology, like I have on this project, there's another way you can help. And if you know anybody who's really good in social media promotion and marketing, send them our way, because we're a bunch of really good geeks. Marketing promotion, it's not exactly our strong point. So we're working on that.
Guys, there are a few questions and comments that have come in. Are you good for me to put them up? So Angel is commenting about the libraries and technologies that we've used.
All the libraries and technologies used are free today, every week.
So mostly have we paid for any of the stuff we're using in Apex? Or is it all open source, free?
Most of it, if not all of it, is free. I don't have any.
I think the only thing we can say is paid maybe is the infrastructure, but it's not paid. It's given by Oracle.
By the way,
the cloud environment.
We are running on donated credits from the Oracle database organization at Oracle.
Yeah. Yes.
Really very wonderful as well, and that's a big contribution. So yes, that's right. It's amazing what you can accomplish with all free software. Really something, and even all free software from Oracle, because of course you may not have the access to the resources we have for our database cloud service foundation, but you have the always free cloud tier, so we can do a lot. Okay.
So that's a really good question from Rudvik. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. How much effort? Oh, can you put back the question, Michelle, please?
Sure.
How much effort does it require to build something like this, since we're not using any of the native components? Well, that's not entirely true. We're using a lot of the functionalities, the core of Apex, and a lot of the APIs that Apex offers. So that's been instrumental for us to get going. What's been more customized is the look and feel, so the theming, and there was an initial effort at first to build those templates that go outside of the box of Apex, but once you have those templates built, you can reuse them for all places in our application. So we have our own custom theme. And as we grow to more pages and more features, we're also going to be reusing what we've already built. So
I think one really important thing there is, if you're thinking, I'd like to help out, I'm pretty good with Apex, but I'm no Vincent, you don't have to be a Vincent to contribute, even on the UI side now, because he's laid down the foundation. And in addition, we have lots of apps on the back end that are pure universal theme, native low-code applications in Apex that we also need help with developing and expanding.
To the question was if it is hard to build an application like Evry yourself. And I would say from an Apex developer perspective, it is hard to build such an application. It's not easy.
Yes.
It's not.
You're
but
right.
It's possible.
We shouldn't diminish it. I mean, Vincent is one of the probably relatively few developers in the world in Apex who can do this, and we took advantage of it fully. But
and guys, just look at the number of faces on the screen right here, and this isn't even the entire team. So I think that's a testament as well to the effort that goes into building an app like this.
But you're right, Tobias. It's not something you don't want to abandon universal theme unless you really need to. And for a native, an app that's going to look native and act native on phones, we needed to. But in general, you definitely want to stay within the low-code environment and leverage the built-in strengths of Apex as far and as long as you possibly can, which is what we did.
Here's a question from Marc-André about where we are getting our information and sources. So I'm going to assume Marc-André is referring to information sources about our climate actions.
I would assume so, right? Well, there's no shortage of information out there, so we've drawn it from all sorts of sources. In fact, really one of the first motivators around Fabi was me going out and thinking, I really want to stop using so much plastic. So I search, plastic free, and 15 websites, top 10, 100 things, and I want to change my diet. So one of the core ideas behind Fabi was we want to provide one place people go to. And whether you're concerned about plastic or garbage or invasives, we can get you started here. So it was a matter of collecting all that information. So a wide variety of sources, and certainly no single source, but certainly we did it with a common and broad belief in the science and acceptance of the science around climate change. And if you see anything inaccurate, we've had our own conversations internally. Some people I've put in actions, and people have said, I don't think that should be an action in Fabi, in every, for whatever, multiple different reasons, including there are big debates about whether or not that really is a good thing. I mean, almost any action you pick, people can debate about, but we've also decided to move past those debates in many cases.
And would you say, Stephen, that the cafe project and sort of partnerships with other organizations is also helping us build our action library? And, there's some,
so interestingly,
some work there.
Surprisingly, sorry, Michelle. There are literally dozens of efforts that are similar to ours, very similar. Some have been around for years. There's one called 1 Million Women based in Australia. Earth Hero, Geeky, Joro, Jewelbug, lots of them. So we don't see ourselves as competitive with them. We see ourselves, in fact, each of us contribute different areas. Our contribution is this idea of daily tracking and daily action plan and execution. But we're all in this together. So one of the things we took the initiative to start is something called Cafe, Climate Actions for Everyone. And we're going to build out an app. We're doing it for the partnership, for the consortium, that will allow all these different organizations to load their action library into a central repository. And all the other apps that do something similar can go and access our actions, and we can access their actions and basically get the most mileage out of all the effort we've done together. I don't know if that'll ever be a public-facing thing, but it certainly, hopefully, will be a big contributor to the overall efforts. Currently, Evry is only available in English. We have already had multiple offers to translate actions, or at least get started, I think, in German, French, Spanish, Bulgarian. So we're looking at starting to rev up a project around that. It's a big effort, 500 actions, obviously lots of other content. So we're not going to dive into it lightly, but we might start, if we find the right volunteers, we might just start incrementally translating and getting ready so that when we build the app infrastructure to support it, we'll have the translations. So if any of you are interested in helping on that level, if you have some good experience with globalization, multilingual apps, or if you are close to somebody who's a good translator who might want to help in that way, do let us know. Yeah,
and to reach out, Stephen, would you say Twitter is a good way to reach out? That's our handle. We have a contact page. We have a contact. Anyway, anybody probably knows how to reach us. But there are different places. Angel says he's waiting for Spanish. So Angel, I nominate you to do the translation to Spanish.
We actually have some in the Apex community who had started translating some of our blog posts, Clarissa. And I haven't gone back to her yet. But again, it's a big effort. And we definitely want to get there. We need to see some momentum in the app.
For sure. Yeah.
So the best way to get the stuff translated in your language is use it now in English. Use it a lot. Get all your friends to use it. And then say, we're not going to use it anymore unless you translate. Then.
Guys, we've used up the hour. I'll just quickly say Justin is asking about the source code or some documentation about Tobias's scheme for session reestablishment. So I might suggest Justin reach out to Tobias. Maybe? Is this a possibility?
Maybe yes.
Maybe yes. All right. Obviously, there's nothing publicly available at the moment.
Right. We haven't yet decided what we're going to do with all the technology we've been building and how we want to make it available. So I would say go ahead and contact Tobias or contact us. And when we get it sorted out, we can let you know.
The problem is when you support a project like evry, then you can't play on evry. You can't be everywhere. So you have to focus on one part. And we did, especially Vincent, we did a lot of special things in the app, but the time to publish this is it's not that available because we are all doing this for free, and it's not easy. But I think we can find a way to.
Yeah, I think we're committed to sharing with the community, clearly.
Yes.
But we have to figure out the right way to do it and find. So again, the more successful you make the app, the more you involve yourself in the project, the more time we'll have to do stuff like that.
So guys, I would say final words. We'd love for you to try Evry, use Evry, give us your feedback, your comments. If you want to contribute to Evry, we'd love that as well. Team, everyone here, thanks for all your hard work and contributions. Stephen and Vincent, any final closing words?
Oh, well, I just want to say it's been a blast creating this app from a tech perspective, but also from a philosophical perspective. It changed a lot of my vision for the world and how I live my own life. So I'm happy to translate it into habits and how I integrate it into the app in my life. And we're just getting started. So follow us.
Join us for the ride. Yes, it's been a pretty intense couple of years, and I was sure glad I reached out to Vincent in the early days and said, hey, do you want to work on this? It's like, yeah, let's go. Boy, oh boy, was I lucky. So, I think at this point, honestly, without being terribly negative, we are all facing an enormous challenge in our lives, individually and as a species. And if we don't take action, if we're not aggressive, if we don't really start to treat this as the emergency it is, it's just going to get worse and worse. So now's the time. And hopefully Evry can be a tool that will help you take that action. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining. Bye.
You've been listening to the Insum Insider.